Rocky 7 might actually be happening, now that Creed 3 is out of the way, and honestly, there are a bunch of good reasons to keep the franchise going. Plus, Sylvester Stallone already has an idea cooking for a Rocky prequel, and it kind of sounds like it could shake up the original story a bit. So let's get into it and break down everything we know about the franchise so far. Michael B. Jordan has really stepped up as the new face of the Creed franchise, especially after the huge success of the 3 movies focused on Adonis Creed. Creed 3 did something pretty major. It completely distanced itself from the original Rocky films by leaving out Sylvester Stallone's Rocky Balboa altogether. That was a first for the series. And even though Rocky wasn't actually in the movie, his presence still kind of loomed over everything. The storyline sparked a lot of curiosity about what's going on in Rocky's life now, which only made people even more eager to see Stallone return to the ring, or at least the screen. But bringing Rocky back isn't as simple as it sounds. There are definitely a few roadblocks in the way, and Stallone has made it pretty clear that he's not interested in showing up as a side character anymore. That basically rules out Creed 4 or any of the other spin-offs. What he is interested in, though, is making Rocky 7. He's been talking about it for a while, and after Creed 3 did so well, the timing might finally be right to give fans another chapter in Rocky Balboa's story. Now, the idea of Rocky 7 isn't something new. It actually started gaining traction all the way back in 2006 after the release of Rocky Balboa. That movie surprised everyone with how well it was received. It got the best reviews the franchise had seen since the original, and even did better at the box office than Rocky 5. That success made people believe that the Rocky franchise still had life in it. But it wasn't really until the Creed movies gave it a big boost that serious talks about a 7th Rocky movie started to happen again. So if the idea has been floating around for years, why hasn't Rocky 7 happened yet? The biggest issue has been a behind-the-scenes clash with longtime franchise producer Irwin Winkler. He owns part of the rights to the Rocky character, but his relationship with Stallone has gotten, well, rocky, no pun intended. Stallone has even said that Winkler essentially shut down Rocky 7 after he started asking for a share of the profits. And since Winkler still controls some of the character rights, that's made it tough to move forward. Even though Stallone and others have been working on it in the background, hoping the situation gets sorted eventually. Meanwhile, Amazon might be the unexpected hero here. They've shown a lot of interest in expanding the Creed and Rocky universe ever since getting involved. We already know Creed 4 is happening, and they're also exploring other spin-offs, even an anime series. So far, all of these projects have focused on Michael B. Jordan's character. But let's be real, ignoring Stallone's Rocky would be a huge missed opportunity. Stallone himself has teased ideas for a series that digs into Rocky's origin story. But honestly, Rocky 7 feels like a much bigger and more impactful way to expand the franchise. And here's the cool part. Stallone already has the story for Rocky 7 pretty much mapped out. He started developing it back in 2019 and has even shared little pieces of what the script might look like. The story would go back to the franchise's emotional core and focus on Rocky connecting with a young immigrant boxer named Chucho the Mutt, who's stuck in America without papers. The plot would explore how the two men form a bond, and how Rocky continues dealing with the loss of Adrian. Since so much of the story is already in place, the film could come together pretty quickly once it gets the green light. There's also another good reason to do Rocky 7. Rocky's part in the Creed saga is basically over. He played a huge role in the first 2 movies, forming a close mentor-student bond with Adonis. But by the end of Creed 2, they'd parted ways. Rocky decided to go to Vancouver to reconnect with his son, Robert, and his family. He had already helped Adonis become a champion and beat Victor Drago. And now that Adonis has stepped out of the ring himself, Rocky doesn't really have a natural reason to show up again in the Creed films. That's why Stallone's absence in Creed 3 actually kind of works in his favor. It opens the door even wider for Rocky 7. At this point, if he were to suddenly pop up in Creed 4, it might feel forced. He missed some major moments in Adonis' life, like Marianne's death and his comeback fight, and squeezing him back into that story would be awkward. But a standalone film focused entirely on Rocky? That makes way more sense, and would allow his story to be front and center again. Plus, there are still a bunch of unanswered questions about Rocky's life. Rocky 7 could give us a chance to explore some of those lingering storylines, like what really happened between Rocky and his son Robert. Between Rocky Balboa and Creed 2, they had a falling out, and we've never really gotten the full story on that. And since Rocky developed such a deep connection with Adonis, it'd be interesting to see how that complicated his relationship with his own son. Marianne's death in Creed 3 could also tie in really well with the emotional direction Stallone has in mind for Rocky 7. Part of the plot involves Rocky still processing the death of Adrian, even years later. Losing Marianne could bring up all those buried feelings and show that grief isn't something that just disappears. This could be a really powerful way to connect Rocky 7 back to Creed 3 and explain why Rocky wasn't around, because he's still trying to deal with his own loss and pain. And introducing a new fighter like Chucho doesn't just give Rocky someone new to mentor. It also creates the potential for future spin-offs. If audiences connect with Chucho, Amazon could easily build a whole new series around him, just like they did with Adonis. Who knows? Maybe Chucho and Felix Chavez from Creed 3 could even end up crossing paths down the line. It's a smart way to expand the franchise while still keeping it grounded in characters people care about. One of the biggest reasons to go ahead with Rocky 7 is that it could finally give Stallone's character the real ending he deserves. We've already seen 3 different movies, Rocky 5, Rocky Balboa, and Creed 2, that felt like the final chapter. But somehow, Rocky always found a way back. This movie could be the actual send-off, the one that wraps up his journey in a way that feels meaningful and final. Now, Stallone has also been floating the idea of a Rocky prequel series. He's mentioned having a few pages written about Rocky as a teenager and how he first meets Adrian. But this idea raises a few eyebrows. So while the idea of a prequel might sound interesting on paper, it really doesn't feel necessary. We already know how Rocky got his start, and we've seen his love story with Adrian unfold in a way that still resonates. What the franchise needs now isn't a retelling of what we've already seen. It's a fitting conclusion for a beloved character who's still got something to say. And that's a wrap for today's video. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.